Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is episode 3, and we're so glad you could join us today. It feels like everywhere you turn, someone's saying, "Oh, I'm just so busy," or "I literally don't have enough time." It's become this kind of universal mantra of modern life, almost like a badge of honor, even. But when we hear that, or even say it ourselves, have you ever just stopped to wonder if being constantly busy is actually, well, good for us? Is it really a sign of progress, or is it something else entirely? I have this profound sense from looking at everything we've gathered for you that there's a much deeper, more complex thing going on here than just needing better time management.
That's the perfect way to frame it. Our mission today on this deep dive is really to move past that surface level, almost knee-jerk understanding of being busy. We want to truly dissect what this whole phenomenon means for our productivity, sure, but also for our well-being and honestly for the whole trajectory of our lives. We've sifted through a really fascinating stack of ideas, some cutting-edge research, even some surprising history to pull out the most impactful nuggets of knowledge, insights tailored just for you to help make sense of this constant feeling of being overwhelmed. We're going to pull back the curtain a bit, show why this isn't just, a personal failing. It's something rooted much deeper in our culture, our workplaces, maybe even the wiring of our brains.
It's incredibly relatable, isn't it? I mean, just think about your last few conversations, or even just what runs through your own head. I'm swamped. I can't possibly fit that in. It's almost like a competitive sport sometimes. And we're going to explore why this isn't just about needing a better calendar app or, just having more discipline. It's a much, much deeper systemic issue. It really shapes our daily reality. The paradox of perpetual motion. Are we busy or productive? Okay, let's dive right into the heart of this paradox, because it's something I think almost everyone feels. On one hand, it genuinely feels like we're more active than ever. Our digital calendars, packed, constantly pinging, meetings, reminders. Our inboxes are just overflowing. A relentless stream of emails, messages, and the to-do lists. They seem to stretch on forever, right? Never quite getting to the end. Yet, despite all this constant motion, all this activity, so many of us feel, well, chronically overwhelmed, perpetually behind, and often, honestly, pretty unfulfilled. It's a really jarring disconnect, isn't it? And this disconnect, it really highlights a crucial distinction.
One that gets blurred way too often in our daily lives. The fundamental difference between just being busy and actually being productive.
You've hit on something truly central there. The sources we looked at make this distinction incredibly clear. And it's foundational, really, to understanding this whole busy trap. Being busy, at its core, it's just a state of constant motion, activity. It's often characterized by being reactive, right? Responding to this unending stream of demands. Think about it. An ever-growing list of tasks, incoming messages pinging away, those notifications popping up, all these external things pulling at you, dictating what you do next. You are, without a doubt, in motion. You're doing something. But this motion, it often lacks a clear compass, a deliberate direction, or even a defined destination. It's almost like this involuntary flitting from one thing to the next.
So it's like running flat out on a treadmill. You're expending huge amounts of energy. You're visibly active, maybe even sweating. But you're not actually moving forward, are you? You're not getting anywhere.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. You're burning all this energy, but there's no forward progress on what actually matters. Productivity, though, that's an entirely different beast. It's about working strategically. It's defined by achieving high-impact outcomes through intentional, focused effort. And it's driven by clear, predetermined priorities. It's not just about doing things. It's fundamentally about doing the right things. These are the tasks that genuinely move the needle, the ones that create tangible value or that align with your most significant long-term goals. One's about activity. The other, fundamentally, is about impact.
That makes perfect sense when you put it like that, intuitively. But if busyness is just constant motion and productivity is strategic impact, why does this distinction matter so much? Is there a deeper reason, maybe subconscious, why we cling to being busy, even when we kind of suspect it's not really moving us forward?
That's precisely the crux of it. And it's a really powerful psychological insight. The illusion of busyness can be incredibly deceptive and, maybe surprisingly, intensely comforting. It feels like progress. You're constantly ticking things off a list, responding to messages, showing up to meetings, seemingly engaging with the world at full speed. But often this state of frenetic activity leads to what's described as this vicious cycle, inefficiency and ultimately burnout, all without any meaningful, lasting achievement. We often confuse frantic activity with progress because, well, our brains are kind of wired for those immediate short-term rewards, that little dopamine hit you get from checking off some trivial task. it feels good, and it tricks us into thinking we're accomplishing something significant.
Right, like mistaking exhaustion for having completed a marathon, when really, you haven't moved an inch toward a real destination, just ran in place.
Exactly. The real insight here is that this sensation of progress can be far more compelling, more psychologically rewarding in the moment than actual measurable achievement. And that makes it incredibly hard to break free from. This confusion, if we don't consciously address it, it directly contributes to profound inefficiency and ultimately deep burnout in our lives. Because we're pouring immense physical and mental energy into tasks that often don't line up with our most important goals or values. We're busy, sure, but busy with the wrong things, often feeling like we're just drowning in a sea of trivial stuff.
And speaking of that constant low-impact activity that feels like progress, one of the most vivid metaphors in our sources for this is time confetti. It sounds almost, whimsical, but it describes something pretty insidious. I think we all recognize it.
It truly is insidious, mostly because it's so pervasive, so common. Time confetti perfectly illustrates how our day just gets fragmented, shattered into these tiny scattered pieces of attention. Imagine like a giant streamer cannon exploding, and suddenly your day is just littered with these small, disparate, almost useless bits of time. These aren't just minor inconveniences either, they're cumulative disruptions. Over the course of a day or a week, they completely destroy our ability to focus properly. Every micro interruption, whether it's a notification pinging from your phone, an email alert popping up, a fleeting thought about some minor errand you need to run later, or even just, someone walking past your desk and catching your eye, each one scatters your mental energy. Each takes a little sliver of your attention, demands your brain, quickly shifts context, and cumulatively, they prevent you from ever truly settling into what we call deep work. Any task that requires sustained, uninterrupted, focused concentration.
So it's not just losing a few seconds here and there. It's that those little bits pile up and basically prevent us from ever really sinking into deep focus. It's like trying to build a complex Lego castle, but someone keeps knocking over tiny parts every few minutes. You can never get momentum.
Precisely. Your brain is constantly shifting gears, and each shift comes with this hidden cognitive cost. It's not just the seconds lost to the interruption itself, but the minutes, sometimes many minutes, it takes to regain your previous level of concentration and depth. And this isn't just an individual time management problem. Our sources point out something even deeper, how "I'm so busy" has become this default social signal. It's a common, almost automatic, stressed-out answer to "How are you?" It's rarely a genuine assessment of a schedule anymore. It's often a performative statement. This isn't solely about individuals being unable to manage time or prioritize. It signals a much deeper systemic issue within our culture, where busyness itself has ironically become a marker of status, of value, of importance. We're not just doing busy, we're performing it for others. 2, the societal and structural roots of the busy trap.
That idea of busyness as a status symbol, that's really striking. It makes me wonder, when did this even start? Because it definitely feels like a distinctly modern thing, doesn't it? It wasn't always this way, was it? Where did this whole obsession come from?
Not at all. Not even close. The veneration of busyness as like a virtue or even just a marker of success, that's a relatively recent development in human history. If you look back historically, for millennia, working crazy long hours or having no leisure time wasn't considered a badge of honor. In fact, it was pretty much the opposite. Think about ancient Greece, for example. For free men, leisure school, that was considered the very foundation of culture, philosophy, true human flourishing. Labor, especially manual labor, that was largely for slaves or the lower classes, often seen as kind of contemptible, actually. A necessary but undignified activity. To be busy with manual work meant you were tied to physical necessity, not engaged in the higher intellectual or civic pursuits that really defined a noble life. Fast forward centuries through lots of different societal structures, and then particularly in contemporary American culture, we've seen this fundamental, almost radical flip. An overworked, constantly busy, leisure-deprived lifestyle has somehow become this aspirational status symbol. It signals a certain kind of importance, right? A certain demand for your time.
So it's almost like busyness is the new luxury good. Instead of showing off designer clothes or fancy cars, people are kind of showing off how little free time they have. As if scarcity of time means high demand for them as a person.
Precisely. It's a really compelling new form of conspicuous consumption, as some of the sources describe it, but with this intriguing twist. Historically, conspicuous consumption was about displaying the abundance of goods you had, expensive things that signaled wealth and status. Today, in a strange paradox, people are demonstrating the perceived scarcity of their time, and by extension, themselves. When someone publicly signals they're perpetually busy, they're implicitly communicating, I'm in high demand, my skills are sought after, I possess desirable human capital. Things like competence, ambition, importance. The unspoken message is, my time is so valuable, I have none to spare. So I'm busy effectively translates to I'm valuable in our current cultural language.
That makes so much sense, and it explains why we see so many people, especially high-profile professionals, entrepreneurs, even celebrities, publicly complaining about having no life or desperately needing a vacation. It's not always just a genuine complaint, although it certainly can be, but often it's also this powerful social signal, a subtle flex, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and it's become deeply embedded. This societal validation creates this powerful, self-perpetuating feedback loop. This behavior isn't solely a personal choice or even a personal failing. It's heavily reinforced by a strong, often unspoken social expectation to be busy. Individuals, particularly in highly mobile meritocratic societies like the US, where work is often seen as a primary path to social validation, feel immense pressure to conform to this norm. The subtle yet potent pressure from peers, from social media, from perceived professional expectation, it can be overwhelming. And the direct consequence for you, our listener, is profound. This pressure can lead to poorer emotional well-being, these pervasive feelings of inadequacy, and even a deep sense of guilt on days when you might, for a rare moment, not feel busy enough. Many people find themselves trapped in this cycle, constantly seeking to appear busy just to feel worthy and in demand, even if the activity itself isn't contributing to meaningful progress or genuine fulfillment. It's a performance, really, designed for external validation.
That's a huge insight,
Yeah.
that it's not just an internal drive, but this external societal pressure that fuels it. But what's fascinating is how the very structure of our work has contributed to this.
Right.
This brings us to the whole knowledge work revolution. Here's where it gets really interesting, because it's not just about us as individuals.
You're absolutely right. Cal Newport, who's a computer science professor and author, he argues compellingly that a major factor in entrenching this pervasive culture of busyness is the rise of knowledge work, starting around the mid-20th century. Think about it historically. In traditional industries like farming or manufacturing, productivity was relatively tangible, right? Easily quantifiable. You can measure output with clear metrics, the number of cars produced, acres harvested, widgets assembled. This clarity made it relatively simple for organizations to spot efficient processes, eliminate waste, see measurable results. You could literally see the output.
But knowledge work isn't like that at all. What's the output of, say, a software engineer, a marketing strategist, or even, well, us producing this deep dive?
Yeah.
It's much more abstract, isn't it? You're not physically producing a widget you can count.
Exactly. With the advent of knowledge work, where employees are mostly dealing with information, abstract projects, problem solving, creative output, a clear, easily quantifiable metric for productivity became really elusive. How do you measure the value of an idea, or a strategic plan, or complex piece of code before it's fully implemented and you can see its impact? So in the absence of a straightforward, objective way to measure true value or output, this flawed organizational shortcut kind of inadvertently emerged. Leaders and managers grappling with this ambiguity began to use visible activity as a crude proxy for actual productivity. Basically, if you're busy, if you're active, if you're responsive, you must be working hard. This created an environment where employees were implicitly and sometimes explicitly incentivized to engage in what Newport vividly calls performative busy work.
Performative busy work. Okay, give me some concrete examples. Because I think everyone listening can immediately relate to this, maybe with a slight sense of recognition.
Oh, absolutely. We've all seen it, maybe even done it. Think about the incessant need to send frequent emails, even if the info isn't critical, just to keep your name visible in inboxes, showing you're on it, engaged. Or proactively scheduling and attending numerous meetings, often without clear agendas or outcomes, primarily because it signifies you're involved, collaborative, leading initiatives. Looks good, right? Or the pressure to be constantly online and available. Responding to messages immediately, even outside traditional work hours, because your visible availability is seen as a sign of dedication and commitment. These are all activities that look like work. They visibly demonstrate presence and effort, but often they contribute very little to actual high-impact outcomes. And then the explosion of digital tools, email, Slack, Teams, collaborative docs just poured gasoline on this fire. They enabled this culture of incessant electronic communication, creating a constant, urgent-feeling stream of low-value tasks that demand an immediate response, fostering this illusion of constant critical work.
So it's not just that we're choosing to be busy. It's that the very structure of our work environments, especially in knowledge work, has almost inherently set us up for this. It's not just a personal failing, it's a systemic problem that kind of traps everyone.
Precisely. This shift really reveals that the busy trap isn't solely a personal failing of time management or a lack of individual discipline. It's a systemic flaw in how organizations define, measure, and reward value in this digital age. The fundamental solution isn't just about individual productivity hacks or more willpower. It requires leaders to fundamentally rethink how they define success. They have to move beyond measuring mere effort or visible activity and actively prioritize, track, and reward tangible, high-impact results. Without that deeper systemic change within organizations, the performative busy work will just continue to thrive, perpetuating the whole cycle. 3. The brain's role: dopamine, task switching, and the fragmentation of focus.
Okay, so we've talked about the immense societal pressures to appear busy and the structural changes in the workplace that actually incentivize this. But what does all this mean for our brains? It turns out our own neurology is deeply involved in this busy trap, acting like an unwitting accomplice, almost conspiring against our own focus.
It's truly fascinating, isn't it, how deep this goes, how our own internal reward systems play a part. At a neurological level, the appeal of busyness is profoundly rooted in our brain's reward system, which is largely powered by the neurotransmitter dopamine. Think of dopamine as the brain's own highly effective motivational speaker, or maybe its internal like button. It's not just released when we get a big reward. Crucially, it's released in anticipation of a reward and on the completion of a task, even a tiny one. That quick hit of dopamine creates this satisfying feel-good rush, a sense of accomplishment, validation that encourages us to repeat the behavior. It's an incredibly powerful driver.
So when I check something off my to-do list, even something tiny like reply the email about lunch, my brain gives me a little hit of dopamine. And that feels good, which makes me want to do it again.
Exactly. And here's the kicker: the subtle trap. The brain doesn't necessarily distinguish between a major, high-impact achievement and a trivial, low-value one. The satisfaction you get from checking off a trivial task, like replying to a quick text or clearing an easy email, it still triggers a small but immediate dopamine hit. That fleeting feeling of, aha, done, is inherently satisfying. And it subtly tricks us into feeling productive, even if we haven't actually moved the needle on something truly important. It's a very clever, very effective neurological hack our brains play on us.
And I imagine modern technology is just perfectly designed to exploit this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost like the apps and platforms are dopamine slot machines, constantly giving us little pulls.
Oh, absolutely. This neurological predisposition is expertly exploited by modern tech. Every notification that pings on your phone, every new email alert, every pop-up, the infinite scroll on social media feeds like TikTok or Instagram, the satisfying little ding of a message arriving. They are all meticulously designed to provide a constant stream of these small, easy rewards. Each ping or alert presents a new opportunity for a quick dopamine release, which conditions our brains to crave and seek out these low-effort, immediate gratification tasks. This creates a powerful, almost addictive cycle. Seeking quick wins, continuously diverting our attention and precious mental energy away from the more cognitively demanding deep work that yields truly significant long-term results. We're drawn to the easy hit, and the tech companies absolutely know it. It keeps us engaged with their platforms.
But it's not just about the quick hits. There's a real measurable cost to constantly jumping between tasks, even if we feel good doing it in the moment. It's like there's this hidden tax on our brain power.
That's precisely where the cognitive cost of constant switching comes in. And it's a tax most people don't even realize they're paying, day in and day out. Psychologists have studied this extensively, often calling it task switching cost. It vividly describes how an individual's productivity and overall efficiency are profoundly and negatively affected when they rapidly shift between different tasks or projects. Our minds, our brains, they're simply not designed for heavy-duty, incessant multitasking. Each time you switch your attention, even for a brief moment, it requires a significant amount of mental effort to disengage from the previous task and reorient yourself to the new one.
So it's not like just clicking a new tab in our browser. It's more like a deep rewiring, a mental reboot every single time we switch focus.
Precisely. This switch cost involves 3 distinct energy-consuming mental processes, according to the research. First, there's goal shifting, the deliberate decision your brain has to make to actually change tasks and let go of the previous one. You have to tell your brain, okay, stop thinking about task A now. Second, rule activation. Your brain has to turn off the mental rules and parameters that were active for the old task and then fire up a completely new set of rules for the new task. It's like changing the operating system mid-flight. And third, Cognitive reconfiguration. This is the complex process of adjusting your entire mental resources and focus to suit the specific demands of the new task. Imagine trying to run 3 completely different, incredibly heavy software programs simultaneously on your computer. It doesn't just slow down, it often crashes, or at the very least, grinds to a frustrating halt. Your brain is doing something similar, and each reboot or crash costs you valuable mental energy and, crucially, time. It leads to a measurable decline in overall performance and a frustrating increase in errors.
And the research on this is pretty eye-opening, isn't it? What kind of quantifiable impact are we actually talking about here? It sounds pretty significant.
The numbers are stark, yeah. They should really be a wake-up call for all of us. Research from the American Psychological Association found that constant multitasking can reduce overall productivity by up to a staggering 40%. Think about that. Nearly half of your potential output just evaporates, simply by trying to do too much at once, by letting your attention be constantly fragmented. Even more specific, there was a groundbreaking study from the University of California, Irvine. It revealed that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully refocus on a complex task after a major interruption. So, that quick Slack message, that seemingly harmless email alert, that notification buzzing on your phone. It's not just a few seconds lost, it's almost half an hour to truly get back into the zone, to regain your prior level of concentration and depth of thought. That's an enormous hidden cost that people rarely account for.
Wow, 23 minutes. That's incredible. And these aren't just abstract numbers from lab experiments, right? This has profound real-world consequences. Like in professional settings where focus is absolute critical for performance, maybe even safety.
Exactly. The impact is definitely not just theoretical. It ripples through real-world industries. For example, studies have shown that software developers whose work demands intense, uninterrupted concentration can lose up to 20% of their productive time each day simply due to constant task switching and interruptions. Imagine a team of 5 developers effectively losing the output of 1 full person every single day because of this. And in even higher stakes environments like healthcare, where precision is absolutely paramount, frequent task switching among nurses has been shown to increase medication errors by a significant 12.7%. These are not minor inconveniences, they are quantifiable losses in efficiency, accuracy, and in critical situations, even patient safety. The mind just isn't built for this kind of constant, rapid toggling between complex demands.
So if we bring it back to that time confetti metaphor, but now looking at it through this neurological lens, it makes even more visceral sense why we feel so scattered, so overwhelmed, and just so unable to concentrate sometimes.
It really does, because time confetti perfectly captures the cumulative, debilitating effect of all those constant digital pings, pop-ups, and notifications. They relentlessly fragment our attention into these tiny, almost unusable pockets of time, just like scattered bits of confetti that are too small to pick up and actually make anything meaningful from. And this fragmentation isn't just confined to the office anymore. It increasingly blurs the fundamental boundaries between our professional and personal lives. We might be physically present with our families, enjoying a meal or a conversation, but our minds are constantly being pulled away by work emails, social media alerts, news headlines popping up. This constant context shifting becomes this ingrained habit, a default mode of operating. It makes it incredibly difficult for us to engage in sustained focus, even when we desperately want to. Our brains are literally being rewired for superficial engagement.
And it feels like the technology itself, the very design of these platforms, is deliberately conditioning us for this fragmented attention, almost weaponizing our dopamine response against us.
It absolutely is, and that's the alarming part, really. The problem is particularly acute in the modern digital environment, where technology is intentionally designed to be engaging, to hijack our attention, and frankly, to be addictive. Algorithms on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, even news feeds, they condition our brains to crave quick bursts of new content, novel stimuli, instant gratification. They actively shorten our attention spans, making it far easier to mindlessly scroll through an hour of short, rapidly changing videos than it is to concentrate on a 1-hour lecture or read a complex report or even engage in a meaningful, in-depth conversation without reaching for your phone. The research here is truly alarming. Psychologist Gloria Mark's extensive work spanning decades has shown this precipitous decline in the average global attention span, from about 2.5 minutes back in 2004 down to a mere 47 seconds in recent years. And this drastic decline, it's directly correlated with constant attention shifting and, no surprise, increased stress. So this isn't just a personal personal failing or a simple lack of willpower. It's an environmental problem. It's a carefully engineered digital ecosystem that relentlessly exploits our neurological vulnerabilities, usually for commercial gain. To combat it, we have to recognize the external forces at play and adopt deliberate strategies that intentionally create mental space and reduce our default reliance on these quick-hit distractions. 5E. The high toll of busy mode.
Sure, yeah.
Beyond productivity to well-being.
Okay, beyond just our output and productivity, which we've explored in quite a bit of detail, this constant, relentless state of busy mode, it takes a serious toll on us, holistically. It's not just about how much we get done, it's really about how we feel, how we are, and the very quality of our lives.
You're absolutely right. And this is where the busy trap truly impacts the individual at a really fundamental level. The consequences of living in this state of perpetual busyness extend far beyond just wasted time or inefficient work. This lifestyle takes a profound and measurable toll on an individual's mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Mentally and emotionally, constant busyness is directly linked to these pervasive feelings of stress, being scattered, a debilitating sense of overwhelm, and often a fundamental feeling of being unsatisfied, even when you're outwardly successful. The immense social pressure we talked about earlier, that internalized need to appear busy, it can lead to deep feelings of inadequacy, persistent frustration, and even profound guilt when an individual perceives themselves as not being as active or in demand as their peers seem to be. It's that constant quiet hum of, I'm not doing enough.
And it can become a coping mechanism too, can it? Like a way to avoid other things, to just keep moving frantically so you don't have to sit with anything uncomfortable.
Precisely. This perpetual state of busyness can, paradoxically, be a form of deep avoidance. Individuals might instinctively fill every waking moment of their schedules to prevent themselves from having to deal with deeper emotional struggles, or confront unpleasant thoughts, or simply experience the quiet, reflective space that might bring uncomfortable truths or anxieties bubbling to the surface. It's like a way of outrunning your own mind. And the continuous overwhelm that comes with this leads to significant, tangible consequences. A marked loss of patience, particularly with loved ones. A significant reduction in creativity because the mind is never given that necessary space to just wander, connect disparate ideas, think deeply. And over time, this constant state of stress and fragmented attention can trigger or significantly worsen serious mental health conditions. Things like chronic anxiety, clinical depression, and a debilitating sense of low self-esteem. It's a relentless erosion of one's inner peace.
Does all this mental and emotional stress actually affect our bodies? It certainly feels like it would, but how direct is that connection? What's actually happening physiologically when we're stuck in this mode?
The connection is very direct, yeah, and incredibly profound. It's a really clear illustration of the mind-body link. The psychological stress of a constantly busy lifestyle has a measurable and severely detrimental impact on our physical health. When we're under stress, our bodies activate the fight-or-flight response, releasing a cascade of hormones, most notably cortisol, often called the stress hormone. Now, cortisol is absolutely necessary for short-term survival. It helps us respond to immediate threats by mobilizing energy. But chronic, sustained exposure to elevated levels leads to what medical professionals call chronic allostasis overload. This essentially means our body's finely tuned physiological systems become overwhelmed. They're unable to return to a balanced, calm state.
So instead of just a temporary boost to escape danger like a bear, it's like our body is constantly on high alert, thinking there's a bear around every corner and every email, behind every notification.
Exactly. Your body is basically in a state of perpetual emergency. Chronically high cortisol levels have been unequivocally linked to a whole host of serious health problems. Because the body's energy is continuously redirected toward handling this perceived, never-ending stressor. This means vital functions like digestion, immune response, restorative sleep, they get deprioritized, leading to systemic dysfunction over time. The physiological effects of chronic stress from a relentlessly busy lifestyle can manifest in a wide range of insidious symptoms. Mentally, you might experience persistent tension headaches, profound sleep disturbances that leave you feeling unrested no matter how long you sleep, significant difficulty concentrating on even simple tasks, memory problems, and that pervasive brain fog that just makes clarity of thought feel almost impossible. Emotionally, it shows up as heightened irritability, a perpetually short temper, a profound lack of patience with even minor annoyances, and those really soul-crushing feelings of inadequacy, frustration, anger, and guilt we talked about earlier.
And physically. Beyond just feeling tired all the time, what actually happens to the body itself?
Physiologically, the list is unfortunately extensive and often debilitating. You'll see those elevated cortisol levels causing sustained high blood pressure, a significantly weakened immune response, which makes you more susceptible to catching every cold or flu going around, unexplained weight gain, particularly around the midsection, due to cortisol's effect on fat storage, chronic fatigue that no amount of rest seems to fix, maybe restless legs, and profound insomnia. Digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, acid reflux, general stomach upset, they're also very common physical manifestations. Furthermore, this relentless lifestyle often inadvertently leads to a suite of poor health behaviors, which sadly creates this vicious cycle that just compounds the problem. Reduced physical activity because you feel you lack time, poor dietary habits often involving processed foods or excessive sugar for quick energy boosts, increased reliance on caffeine just to push through the fatigue, social isolation because you're too busy for friends or family, and even procrastination on important tasks because the sheer volume makes you feel utterly overwhelmed. All of these behaviors further exacerbate the body's stress response, just digging the hole deeper and deeper.
And professionally, it's not exactly helping us climb the ladder either, is it? Which seems totally counterintuitive. Appearing busy is often perceived as valuable. So how could it actually hold us back?
It absolutely does hold us back, and this is one of the most insidious paradoxes of the busy trap, especially for career progression. For professionals and leaders, a packed schedule, while it might outwardly project an image of importance or be worn like some badge of honor, very often prevents individuals from engaging in the type of high-value, deep work that actually moves a career or an organization forward in a truly meaningful way. Instead, a culture of busyness encourages leaders to operate almost exclusively in a reactive mode, constantly addressing immediate, often low-impact issues, putting out fires that probably shouldn't have started in the first place. This means they're not dedicating enough precious time and crucial mental energy to the big stuff: strategic priorities, genuine innovation, developing a long-term vision for their team or organization, or even nurturing key relationships that could lead to breakthroughs.
So they're busy, definitely busy, but not really building for the future, not innovating, not truly leading. They're just managing the churn, the day-to-day chaos.
Exactly. They're managing the urgent, but consistently neglecting the important. And this pattern doesn't just limit their own individual effectiveness and potential for growth, it also sends this powerful detrimental signal down to their teams. It implicitly communicates that visible activity, even if it's low-value performative busy work, is more important and more rewarded than achieving meaningful high-impact results. This creates this vicious cycle of performative busy work throughout the entire organization, leading to professional stagnation for individuals, a huge drain on collective energy, and ultimately a severe lack of true progress and innovation for the company as a whole. The appearance of being busy becomes more valued than actual impactful productivity, and really everyone loses in the long run. V, the Great Escape, a framework for deliberate productivity.
Okay, wow. So we've identified the problem in, let's be honest, excruciating but necessary detail. We've broken down its insidious roots in society, the workplace, even our own brains. And we've seen the serious, tangible toll it takes mentally, emotionally, physically. This has been a lot to unpack. But now, for the part I think everyone is waiting for, and certainly for me, what do we do about it? How do we genuinely begin to escape this busy trap? How do we reclaim our time, our focus, and our well-being?
That's the critical question, isn't it? And the good news is there are powerful pathways to freedom. It's not hopeless. The first and arguably most profound step towards change isn't about finding a new tool or app. It's a fundamental mindset shift, moving from valuing sheer activity to valuing genuine impact. Our sources really emphasize that an individual must deliberately and consciously decouple their sense of self-worth from their level of busyness. This means consciously acknowledging that simply being active does not equal progress, and a perpetually full, frantic schedule is not a badge of honor to be worn proudly. It's actually often a sign of a deeper issue, a lack of control.
So it's about changing our internal narrative, about what success really looks like. Recognizing that a full calendar doesn't automatically mean a full or meaningful life.
Precisely. The ultimate goal should be to measure success by the impact you create, by the quality of your contributions, by the alignment of your efforts with your core values, not by the sheer volume of tasks you've checked off or how many hours you've publicly put in. This philosophical reframing is absolutely foundational. Without this fundamental shift in perception, any practical tools or strategies we discuss next will only feel like another set of tasks to add to an already overflowing, stress-inducing list. It's about deciding what truly matters to you and defining your success based on that, not on external validation of how busy you seem. It's really about being intentional.
And once we've made that mindset shift, that critical decision to redefine success for ourselves,
Yeah.
What's the core strategy to put it into practice? I'm thinking about deep work, a concept many people have heard of but maybe don't fully grasp how to actually integrate it into their lives.
You're spot on. One of the most effective and transformative strategies for making that transition from busy to truly productive and fulfilled is the cultivation of deep work, a term powerfully articulated by Cal Newport. He defines deep work as those highly focused, high-value, cognitively demanding tasks, the kind that create new, often unique value and are difficult for others to easily replicate. These are the tasks that genuinely move the needle in your professional or personal life, writing that critical report, developing a complex new skill, strategizing a major project, or engaging in deep creative problem solving. The key to developing this habit, and it is a habit that needs building, is to consciously create routines and rituals. These minimize the mental energy required to transition into that state of unbroken, concentrated focus. It's about systematically reducing friction and making deep work your default mode, not something you hope to stumble into.
And Newport even breaks this down into different philosophies, right?
Yeah.
Acknowledging that one size doesn't fit all, which is really helpful because everyone's situation, their job, their life, it's unique.
He does, yes, and it's incredibly helpful for tailoring the approach to your specific circumstances. He outlines 4 distinct philosophies for integrating deep work. You can kind of pick the one that best fits your current context and professional demands. First, there's the monastic philosophy. This is the most radical approach. It involves essentially minimizing or even completely eliminating shallow work and external distractions to maximize time for sustained, deep, focused efforts. Think of a researcher retreating to a quiet cabin for weeks to write a book, or a software architect dedicating months to a single complex system design. It's best suited for individuals with a singular, well-defined professional goal that really requires extended periods of uninterrupted concentration. They metaphorically, or sometimes literally, retreat to protect their cognitive space. Then there's the bimodal philosophy. This strategy requires dividing your time between extended, clearly defined stretches of deep work, maybe at least one full day per week, or even multi-day sprints and other periods left open for all the other shallow tasks like meetings, emails, admin stuff. This approach acknowledges that both deep and shallow work have legitimate value in certain professions. It allows for these concentrated sprints of high-value creation interspersed with the necessary lower-value tasks. You basically compartmentalize your work types. The rhythmic philosophy is often cited as the easiest starting point for beginners, and it's probably a great place for you, our listener, to begin this journey if you're new to this. It involves dedicating a specific, consistent block of time, say 3 to 4 hours each day, to deep work. This could be first thing in the morning before the chaos starts, or a set block in the afternoon. The consistency creates a powerful habit, builds momentum over time, and makes it easier for your brain to kind of switch on that focused state when the scheduled time arrives. It's all about building a daily rhythm. Finally, there's the journalistic philosophy. This method allows an individual to alternate between deep and shallow work more fluidly as it suits them, shifting gears throughout the day based on their energy levels or immediate demands. However, it's not recommended for those new to deep work, because it requires an extremely high level of cognitive discipline, self-awareness, and mental agility to make those transitions efficiently without suffering significant context switching costs. It's really for the seasoned deep worker who can switch modes effectively.
Those philosophies really help frame how we can approach it, giving us a mental model to work with. But what are some practical, actionable tools we can actually use to start reclaiming our control? Regardless of which philosophy resonates most with us, we need some concrete steps we can take today.
Excellent question. Because a truly productive and focused life is ultimately supported by a set of proven methodologies and habits, things that help you translate that intention into actual action. Let's start with prioritization. The very first step, once you've made that mindset shift, is to precisely identify and prioritize the tasks that will produce the most significant impact, rather than just reacting to whatever email lands in your inbox or whoever shouts loudest. A popular and incredibly effective tool for this is the Eisenhower matrix. It categorizes tasks based on 2 simple criteria: urgency and importance. You divide tasks into 4 quadrants. Urgent and important, these are the things you do now. Not urgent but important, these are your deep work tasks, the ones you schedule. Urgent but not important, these you should try to delegate. And not urgent and not important, these you just delete or automate. This matrix forces you to consciously decide what truly deserves your time. Another simple yet profoundly powerful daily practice is defining your 3 big wins each day. Before you even open your email or check messages, identify the 3 most critical, needle-moving tasks that absolutely must get done today for you to feel successful. Then make sure those are completed first, ideally during your peak focus time. This guarantees you make progress on what truly matters, regardless of the inevitable daily interruptions that will come later.
So it's really about knowing what's truly important and impactful before the day even gets going, setting your own agenda rather than letting the day's chaos set it for you. Okay, what about managing the actual time? Once we know our priorities, how do we protect that time?
For time management, one of the most effective techniques, and really a cornerstone of deep work, is time blocking. This means dedicating specific, predetermined blocks of time in your calendar for specific tasks, and then treating those blocks like non-negotiable appointments. You wouldn't just skip a meeting with your boss, right? Treat your focused work time the same way. Crucially, this includes scheduling a daily 60 to 90-minute block specifically for deep work, that focused, high-value task that moves your biggest rocks forward. You literally put deep work on Project X in your calendar and protect it fiercely. Close your email, silence notifications. It's like making an appointment with yourself for focused effort. The Pomodoro technique is another fantastic, very accessible tool for building focus, especially good for beginners or if you find yourself easily distracted. It breaks work down into 25-minute focused intervals called Pomodoros, separated by short 5-minute breaks. After maybe 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, like 15-30 minutes. This structure helps you maintain an intense focus for manageable periods, minimizes the urge to check distractions, and gradually builds your concentration muscle. And then there's batching. This involves grouping similar, shallow tasks together. Things like answering emails, returning phone calls, responding to Slack or Teams messages. Put them into set, designated windows of time. Instead of checking email every 5 minutes, maybe you process it for 30 minutes at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. only. This dramatically reduces the cognitive cost of constantly switching context by dedicating specific slots for these lower value but still necessary activities. It also trains your brain and others to expect communication only during those times.
And what about all the mental clutter? Sometimes just remembering everything you have to do, all the commitments, ideas floating around, that feels like a full-time job in itself. It drains your mental energy before you even start the actual work.
You've perfectly described the problem that information management techniques aim to solve, particularly through the Getting Things Done (GTD) method, which was developed by productivity expert David Allen. The core principle of GTD is elegantly simple yet profoundly impactful. Externalize all your mental clutter. Get it out of your head. Every idea, every task, big or small, every commitment you've made, every random thought, must buy milk, every project detail, capture it immediately in an external trusted system. This could be a digital app like Todoist or Notion, a simple notebook, a voice recorder on your phone, or whatever combination works for you. By capturing absolutely everything outside your brain, you free up your precious working memory, your mental RAM, basically. You allow it to focus on actual execution and deep thought rather than constantly running background processes trying to remember what needs to be done next. It's about offloading the mental burden of recall, allowing your brain to truly think and create instead of just acting as a glorified and often unreliable to-do list.
These tools are incredibly helpful for individual habits, giving us really practical ways to implement change. But it sounds like it's not just about individual habits alone. It's also about building a supportive system around ourselves, creating an environment that actually encourages this kind of focused work. Because if the world around us is still pushing busyness and distraction, it feels like an uphill battle.
That's the absolute key to long-term sustainable success. You're right, individual effort is crucial, it's necessary. But a truly productive and fulfilling life is ultimately built on a foundation of intentional habits and a consistently supportive environment. This involves actively defeating digital distractions. You simply must regain control over your digital life rather than letting it control you. This can be achieved through powerful yet simple actions, like turning off all non-essential notifications on your phone, tablet, and computer. Do you really need that social media alert right now? Probably not. Designate specific deep work time blocks where colleagues know not to interrupt you unless it's a true emergency, where meetings are not scheduled, where your email client is firmly closed. Consider establishing clear office hours for communication, managing the expectation of instant replies, and gently teaching others when they can realistically expect to hear back from you. It's about proactively creating boundaries for your attention.
And protecting our energy seems absolutely fundamental too. It's not just about willpower, is it? We can have all the best tools and intentions, but if we're constantly running on fumes, none of it is going to stick.
It's absolutely not just willpower. It's about physical and mental resilience. The sources we reviewed are unequivocally clear on this. Sustained, high-quality productivity is impossible without consistently sufficient energy. They emphatically emphasize the non-negotiable role of sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Prioritizing a healthy, balanced diet that actually fuels your brain and body, consistently getting adequate restorative sleep, typically 7 to 8 hours per night for most adults, and engaging in regular physical activity. These are not luxuries to be squeezed in if you have time. They are fundamental pillars. Foundational supports for the mental and physical resilience required for sustained, focused work and for navigating the inevitable stresses of modern life. Your brain and body need to be optimally fueled and rested to perform at their best, to maintain that deep work capacity, and frankly, to resist the constant lure of those easy, quick-hit distractions when you're tired.
And finally, what role do organizations, our workplaces, play in all this? Because if the system itself is designed to reward busyness and performative activity, individual efforts, no matter how disciplined, can feel like swimming upstream against a very, very strong current.
You've hit on perhaps the most critical point for achieving real systemic change. The responsibility for escaping the busy trap does not and should not rest solely on the individual employee. Leaders within organizations must actively foster an organizational culture that truly values tangible results and profound impact over just visible effort and mere activity. This can involve implementing concrete structural changes, things like designating meeting-free days or specific blocks of time across the company where deep work is encouraged and protected for everyone. It means actively valuing deep work as a core competency within teams, maybe even training employees on its importance and providing the necessary space and tools for it. Most importantly, it means fundamentally shifting the reward system, recognizing and rewarding strategic outcomes, genuine innovation, and high-impact contributions, rather than simply rewarding a reactive, always-on busy schedule or constant online presence. When the organizational culture truly shifts to measure and reward genuine impact, not just activity, that's when systemic change really takes hold. Creating an environment where everyone can thrive with genuine focus, not just pretend to be busy.
When busyness is a good thing.
Okay, now this has been an incredibly thorough deep dive into the negatives of busyness, the problems, the trap it creates. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to ask a slightly more nuanced question. Is there ever such a thing as good busy? Or is all busyness inherently problematic, something we should just try to avoid at all costs?
That's a crucial point of nuance, yeah. And it's vital to acknowledge that not all busyness is inherently negative or destructive. A really crucial distinction must be made, as the sources highlight, between what we can call bad busy and good busy. And understanding this difference is key to truly escaping the trap without just swinging towards apathy or inactivity.
Okay, so define bad busy for us again, maybe contrasting it clearly with what we should be aiming for instead.
Bad busy is that reactive, fragmented, and externally driven state of constant motion that we've been meticulously describing throughout this deep dive. It's the kind of activity that leads directly to profound stress, mental exhaustion, and that debilitating feeling of being constantly drained, overwhelmed, and unfulfilled, even as you frantically bounce from one task to the next. It's characterized by incessant task switching, constant digital distractions pulling at your attention, and that almost addictive craving for quick, shallow wins from those dopamine hits we talked about. Think of it as the "I left my wallet in the fridge and now I'm late for everything" kind of frenetic, disorganized, and ultimately pointless activity. Lots of motion, very little purpose or meaningful progress. It's really a state of feeling completely out of control.
And then good busy is the opposite, where we're still active, maybe even very active, but it feels positive and productive, energizing even.
Precisely. In sharp contrast, good busy is a proactive, focused, and deeply purposeful state. This is the feeling of being truly in the zone, fully absorbed in a challenging but deeply rewarding task. Something that stretches you but aligns with your goals. When you're good busy, you feel energized, highly motivated, and deeply engaged. It's the kind of activity where time seems to just melt away because you are so deeply immersed in what you're doing. When managed consciously and intentionally, this kind of busy life can offer significant, measurable benefits to your cognitive function and overall well-being. For example, staying cognitively and socially active, engaging in purposeful work or hobbies you care about has been explicitly linked to improved mental alertness, stronger memory function, and even a potential delay in the onset of cognitive decline and dementia for individuals who remain purposefully engaged throughout their lives. It's about stimulating your brain in a beneficial, directed way.
So it's about being deeply engaged, focused on something meaningful, not just active for the sake of activity or, putting on that performative show for others.
It's exactly. Engaged, purposeful busyness can also significantly increase intrinsic motivation, that drive that comes from within. It can improve creativity by continually challenging the brain to find new solutions and make novel connections. And it can even help to combat negative emotions like boredom or rumination by providing a strong sense of hope, accomplishment, and forward momentum. It's the absolute antithesis of the reactive, draining, bad busy. The goal, therefore, is absolutely not to aim for inactivity or to retreat from the world entirely. The goal is to intelligently and consciously replace that reactive, low-value busyness, the endless time confetti and performative activity, with intentional, high-impact engagement. Activity that truly fuels you, intellectually stimulates you, and helps you achieve meaningful, lasting outcomes aligned with your deepest values. It's really about being busy on your terms, for your goals, in a way that generates real value and genuine fulfillment, not just frantic motion. Outro.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive into this whole paradox of busyness. It's so clear now, isn't it? That the illusion of busyness provides this powerful, almost addictive sensation of progress. It gives us those fleeting dopamine hits we crave. But far too often, it completely fails to deliver on the promise of meaningful achievement. This trap, as we've really explored today, it isn't some simple personal failing that can be fixed with just a new planner or app. It's this complex interplay of deep-seated cultural norms, often flawed organizational design, especially in the age of knowledge work, and even our own neurological vulnerabilities that are so expertly exploited by modern technology.
It truly is a multifaceted challenge, yeah. Deeply woven into the fabric of modern life. But the path to freedom from this trap, it is clear, and it's within your grasp. It's achievable. It begins with that profound shift of perspective we talked about, a deliberate choice to redefine what truly matters to you. It means moving away from a mindset that measures your worth by how busy you appear, to one that measures your worth by the genuine impact you create and the quality of your focused engagement. The solution is rooted in intentionality. It's anchored by the disciplined practice of deep work, and it's supported by building a robust system of practical tools and those healthy foundational habits that protect your precious energy and focus.
It really reminds me of that classic analogy, the one with the jar, the big rocks, and the sand. If you put the big rocks, your most important high-impact goals and priorities, into the jar first, the sand, which represents all the minor everyday tasks and interruptions, it will still find its place, filling the gaps around them. But if you fill the jar with sand first, just reacting to everything small, there's absolutely no room left for the big rocks, the things that truly matter, that move you forward. It's all about prioritizing what genuinely moves you forward, not just what screams loudest for your attention right now.
And ultimately, the true freedom, the real sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, it lies in detaching your personal identity from the constant hustle, from the frenetic pace, and instead finding your satisfaction and your value in focused, purposeful action. So maybe the next time someone asks you, perhaps with that competitive glint in their eye, "So are you busy?"
Yeah.
The most productive, the most liberating response you can give may very well be to simply say with confidence, "No, I'm focused."
What a powerful thought to leave you with, and what an important distinction for all of us to consider as we move forward. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today into this crucial topic. We really hope it gave you some valuable insights. We can't wait to see you next time. Goodbye for now.